All right, good to see everybody. I would figure I'd start just going through the game, and getting a chance to watch it. Figured hit you up on some things that I liked. First, I thought run game wise and pass protection from the offensive line. I thought I liked where that's headed. I liked what I saw. You've heard me talk about the gap schemes and people on the move and pulling. That was something that I saw improvement that the guys have been working hard at. I liked the energy of the defense in the first part of the game. I thought that felt a lot more like us, just in terms of the tackling, the physicality. I liked a couple plays early by Quinn and J.K. down on the near the goal line, so that was good to see. On the sideline, I thought I saw countless examples of brotherhood, of people coaching one another up, going through things together. And I thought the three captains, really represented themselves. That was Martin and Good Jones and Yankoff. Some areas I wanted to see improve. I'm not happy with the ball being at a -2 for the game. Not likely going to win a lot doing that. And our tackling and breaking tackles. We're not near the space we need to be on that. And then on our kickoff cover and our kickoff return, those are two of the groups I'm most proud of and are the biggest part of our identity. And so I've got super high standards for them. So I'd like to see, more consistent kick-ass plays, on that group. I saw it after the first kickoff. I saw, one of the returns later, but those are two groups that I just, have such high standards for in our team, and I want to consistently see that higher. So all that said, let's get rocking with you guys, and let's get it going. Yes, no updates. Brian's been excused from the practice for today, and we hope to have some resolution on that soon.
And then with Terry, what's the plan for him as far as getting him back on the field? And the other part with that was, did you know he wasn't going to get the game tonight? Was that something you guys had discussed? And what was the reason behind that?
The return to play part that's the good news. So we're out of the rehab phase with Terry. His ankle's good. He's healthy. So now it's a return to play. What goes into all that at that position specifically, like the max speeds, the decelerations, the route tree of going through that. So that's kind of the good news of where we're at. It's just, conditioning and football and returning to play. And so almost all the guys are at some phase along that way. You're going to see McGee at practice. You're going to see Baptiste, they just have kind of gone through that process as well, where they're out of the rehab portion of their, returning to play. And then it's back into like the football simulated work. So, we're excited that, he's back and getting better conditioning and getting things going. Chick? Yeah, we're on the return to play format. So it starts off as rehab. I can go through it again if you want.
You got to look at your the last game. What's the plan for Saturday?
I saw some things, honestly, going through. There's still a lot of moving parts, Chick, not at the entire offensive line. So it'll be more customized in this game, not as many players from the game against Cincinnati. But there's definitely a lot of battles that I'm looking forward to seeing at a number of spots. But it won't be as many that we played in Cincinnati for sure.
And how difficult is these next couple of days as you try to figure out that 53 for this coaching staff?
Yeah, it's all part of the whole process. And this time of year can be most challenging for the players that may see themselves on the roster bubble or the practice squad bubble, and you just try to encourage them, man, like try not to count, like best foot forward, what's your best look like. And I've seen a lot of that from guys at practice. I've been also impressed by some players, that we've added late and then have worked their ass off to get caught up. I've seen that, with Hamilton. He played on defense. He played on teams. I was impressed by that. And then we added, another new offensive tackle in Fant today. So I'll be excited to get on the field with him. But this time of year, man, it does get heated in that space. But that's my messaging, to make sure, man, like don't get into the counting business. Like whatever your best looks like, we talked about it early, just that competition of going for it with one another and supporting each other. And I liked what I've seen from that side. But it's a real thing. It's a real emotion. They want it badly to make it, and they know this is a team they want to be a part of. So I want to make sure they stay in that pocket of doing right.
Dan, just to clarify, will we see Terry today out here doing anything?
Not at the practice portion. He had a big part of the run that went along today. I'm not going to play Where's Waldo, guys, all right, moving forward, so just so we're clear on that. So Terry's return to play format is no different than any of the other players. And so I'm not jumping at you, Ben, but I wanted to make sure, like, the next question doesn't go down this line. He's healthy, which is now a good step to, like, getting closer to being back on the field. So you'll see that earlier than later. I don't have a date circled on my whiteboard in my office, this day for him, this day for him. But, yeah, the good news, we're getting closer to that for sure.
And with Chris Rodriguez, what have you noticed the difference with him, maybe on the field and maybe getting ready to play football from when you first got him to now?
Conditioning, for sure. This is a guy who's changed his body and now has allowed, the passing game. He's more fluid to go into that. He's always been a strong runner. That was Chris coming out from at college at Kentucky to here, and you saw that in the way he got his opportunity, some 4 minutes to finish some games. But he's very consistent in his tracks, in his run game. So I've seen that. What I have seen is elevated conditioning that allows him. Now there's more ops on punt. There's more ops on other spaces. So he's really, by doing that, given himself more ops. And so he's off to a good start.
Dan, two other injury ones. Trey Amos, you said had a hamstring. What's
Yep.
the latest on him?
So Trey will be back out today. And then we've got I'm excited for you guys to see practice tomorrow. We have referees coming. So if he can hit all the markers back today, then I would say, then we're ready to begin him back with it as well.
And as far as Sam Cosme, now with it being close to 2 weeks before the opener, what's your feeling for his status going in?
Yeah, where I originally earlier had said I don't have a date on some people. That's different because of PUP and not. So that is a date that you do have to say, okay, by this time, are you able to get into that? Good news for Sam, I'm glad you brought him up. He has hit all the markers along the way to set himself up to begin, that process where then it begins the individual work into that. So as we get closer, we'll have a better shot for him to, start into the practice phase of things. So I'm encouraged, Nikki, by the work that he's put in. So I'm hopeful that's where it goes, that, otherwise it's like a longer 4-week process to wait. So all signs today would indicate that he's hitting those marks.
Hey, Dan, good afternoon.
Good morning. Afternoon, yes, sorry.
Understanding what you just said about not wanting to play like Where's Waldo.
Yep.
I think there is some interest and curiosity for guys like Terry and even Cosme. Like, what is the sort of organizational philosophy of why it's okay or even preferable for them not to go to the game on Monday night?
Yeah, it's really custom to how we want to do things by player. Some big rehab here, some not on those particular days. So that's how we decide to, go through all the guys. If I would show you a list of who's rehab, who's doing what on what day, and how they go, they have that mapped out pretty good.
And then as you've watched Connerly throughout camp, what has stood out to you the most as far as the way he's made that transition from left to right, and maybe why is that more difficult than the average Joe might understand?
Right. I'll tell you, Adam, one of the things that jumped out to be more than even left to right was in the run game. And I thought he was make that transition just athletically. He'll put it in, and guys have moved that one. I'm not going to say I was surprised by it, but the run game part of him was even better than I had thought. Sometimes you think of an athletic tackle and automatically your mind goes to pass protection. But he's a very strong run defender. He can clamp on you. He can move you. You saw that with some double teams the other day. We've seen him pull. So that would be probably as big a shift for me as it was even from left to right is in the run game. I thought he'd acclimate to that just based on the athleticism. But the running game part, I've certainly been impressed by that so far.
Sticking with the offensive line, you've had a lot of moving parts throughout camp. Does that concern you at all? Because you're then going to have Cosme coming back in there at some point.
Yeah. It's not ideal. And I think you want to control the things you can. So Coleman's back into some practice today, so that's a good sign. There's nothing like the practice work. We can do it on the walkthrough, we can do it in the meeting room, but it does help when the guys are side by side and going through it together. So it's not ideal, but I also know there's a silver lining in the contingency plans that go along with that, where when somebody's out and the next person comes in, they get to do their thing. And I think it's opened up some spaces for Chris Paul, and I've seen more versatility from him than I ever have. But no, you'd like for those guys to get the reps in together. And as a coach, I want them all, man, just so I can think of how to do it and how to get there, and whether that's Terry or Sam or Brandon, who was out, or Marcus. So I think about them a lot and how much, how quickly we need them back to get ready. But I guess I look at it also from the silver lining to say, when there's been some spaces for some chances to move it around, guys have responded.
I mean, does Wiley kind of fit in really well there because you're reminded, I can do a bunch of different things with this guy?
His attitude has just been so on point from the offseason. So far in this training camp, he's played right tackle, he's played left guard, he started at left tackle the other day. And so it really comes from his mindset first. Honestly, there was zero resistance on the day that Coleman had gotten injured in practice. All of a sudden, you just saw Wiley just go in at left guard. It was like, there wasn't even a play that changed. I'll move. And I like what he brings to us in that way.
Coach, you talked about kind of both the Brian Robinson situation as well as Chris Rodriguez, but how are you and other coaches kind of approaching conversations with other running backs on the team with the lack of a resolution with Brian Robinson now, and kind of gearing up those running backs for whatever might happen next?
I didn't have any extra conversations with any of the other runners. I had a discussion with the whole team, but not specifically with Austin or Chris or Bill or Kaz or Felt or any of the guys. So I just would rather tell everybody that I don't want to have one code for these guys and something for somebody else. So they're big guys. They know what's at stake, and that's what I like seeing in the game. Prove it in competition, and I knew this is a very competitive group. Fortunately, at the spot, it looked no further than like Austin Eckler and Jeremy McNichol of like what a pro's pro would look like. They're the absolute standard, and for those in the room that's covered those two, they know exactly on the field, off the field, their drill work, their special teams play. They're just an epitome of, kind of the commander way, that way we want to get down at running back and just at football.
With George Fant, what do you like about him, and why now for a player like that?
The length, obviously, for tackle. He looks great. He had a workout with us last week, and then Adam and the team, were able to finalize all that over the weekend. So that's a really big deal for us to add somebody with George's experience and length and at offensive tackle. It's very, very cool to have somebody with his experience and background and play style and skill, all of that. So we're really pumped to add him to the crew.
Hey, Dan. Next week, you got to get down to 53, that initial 53. So as you're going through the evaluation, what are some of the position groups, maybe one or two, that's been really challenging to evaluate as you get down to next week?
Yeah, there's been we knew going in, tight ends had, a deep crew. Running backs would have a deep crew. Certainly the safeties have been that way. So all of them have their own competitions. And it, like this morning, I was had made some individual cut-ups on individual players. Sometimes as a coach, I'm watching all 22 on this play and all 22, and then we'll just look back in at one player. I want to see the last two games, every rep. And we'll do that a lot too. If you were comparing you and I, here's all your plays, watch them. Here's all my plays, watch them. And that's a good way to do it as well. And then, quite honestly, there's also around the league. Like one thing that I admire from Adam is give Fant as an example, with he and with Lance, they're not backing off competing. And if there are ways and times that we can improve the team, they've proven that they're down for that. And it's one of the things I really respect about Adam, knowing it's not just here that everybody's competing against. It's around the National Football League and scouting and looking at guys. So when you're in the building, you don't think of that way. You're just looking at this practice and these people. But that's why I was referring to Chick earlier, not counting. you know, because it's not just this room that you're counting. It's a standard, it's a way, and how you play. And so I think that's really important. And the best of the best from a player standpoint know that. And so you got to produce all the time. All right, you guys have a good day.